I'm going to give you a tutorial on assembling your box. Alright, so you're going to go up here to Open, and you want to open the assembly in which you downloaded for Activity 4.6. Open that assembly, everything should work. Double check that you have a box, a follower guide, and you have a handle that rotates. If you do, fantastic. We're going to go up to Place, and the first thing we're going to place is going to be your follower that you edited to be the correct length. So I'm going to open this follower, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate it in the right or the current orientation that I want. So I'm going to right click, and in this case I'm going to rotate it about the X, and it's upside down, so I'm just going to continue to rotate it on the X by right clicking and left clicking rotate on X. I have it where I want, so I'm just going to left click it, then I'm going to right click OK. So I have my part. I'm going to start to constrain my part inside of the follower guide. So I'm going to go to Constraint, and I'm not going to change any options here yet. I'm just going to select the cylinder, and it's going to give me the center line of the cylinder. Then I'm going to select the cylinder of the follower guide, and you're going to see that it comes up with the center line as well. So you just want to make sure you're selecting the right thing. And when I do that, it will place it right in there. I'm going to go ahead and apply. I'm going to cancel out of this and just kind of make sure it works, which is wonderful. It does. Next, I want to orient this correctly so that my follower is in this orientation, because it could be in another orientation. We want this to be like this. So I'm going to go up to Constraint. I'm going to go to Angle, Directed, and I'm going to select this plane that's visible right here. Then I'm going to select the side of the box, and that's going to keep that mid-plane of cam for the follower at 0 degrees to the side of the box. I'm going to hit Apply, Cancel, and again I'm going to make sure it works and I can't rotate it at all. Next I'm going to go to Place, and I'm going to bring in my cam that I created. I'm going to open that, and again I'm going to get this in the right orientation, so I'm going to rotate this around the Z. Okay, that's good. And now I'm going to rotate it around the X, and good. Right click, OK. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to constrain again. I want to put this cam on here. Don't worry if you got a square hole and it's a round crank, that's fine. But we're going to constrain, and I'm going to select that axis that we created, and then I'm going to select the axis for the cylindrical part of the crank, and it's going to place it there. I'm going to apply, cancel, and you can see I can rotate it about here. Next, I'm going to go constrain, and I'm going to select the mid plane of the cam, this XZ cam, or this XZ plane, and this visible plane on the crank. And it's going to bring those two together like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply, Cancel, and I'm just going to make sure it rotates with it, which is great. But if I grab the cam, you can see I can move it left and right. So now I'm going to line it up, the mid planes of the cam and the follower. So I'll select Constrain, mid-plane of cam, mid-plane of follower, and it looks like it flipped it, but don't freak out. They are now lined up vertically. So I'm going to go ahead and Apply, Cancel, and I'm just going to make sure I can rotate this and everything works. That still works, doesn't move left and right, which is great. So now I'm going to constrain, and I'm going to create a transitional constraint between the bottom of the follower and the face of the cam. Go ahead and hit Apply, Cancel, and I'm just going to rotate this to make sure it rotates all the way around and it works as specified. So we're good there. Everything looks great. Next, I'm going to do a little bit of a different constraint from the earlier video. I'm going to select Constrain, Angle, Directed Angle, and I'm going to select this mid-plane again, and I'm going to select the back of the box. So this is going to set it at 0 degrees. So if this sets at 0 degrees, this is the maximum displacement of the cam. You would want this to be 180. So if that's the angle, if we put in 180 and we hit Apply, it might freak out like this. So keeping it at 0, so we'll try this again, 0, it's okay. That just means that when you have to take a screenshot of it at 180, you might have to be at 0 because your cam is flipped upside down. So I like that there. I'm going to go ahead and apply, cancel, and I shouldn't be able to rotate it, but if I go into my cam, the little arrow here in the model browser, you see this angle. I want to change this angle to say 180. And now here's a very common thing that happens. When I type in 180, this assembly cannot be solved. It doesn't like to flip 0 to 180 in one direct rotation. So we kind of have to step it. So if we click here, we can go to 45, and you can see here it goes to 45. And I can still edit this, 90, 135, and then 180. And you can see there that everything works. It's great. In your document, you want to measure from the top of the box to the top of the follower and take a screenshot of that for your Google Sheet. So right now, the cam is actually not in the right orientation, even though it's at 180. Like I said before, it might be 180 for you. Everything might work, but if you have this orientation when you constrained this plane together and this plane, it might have been flipped. So for the maximum displacement, we want it at 0 degrees. Again, if I try to just go from 180 to 0, it freaks out. So again, we're going to have to go backwards in this case. So we're going to go 135, 90, 45, and 0. If it doesn't go from 45 to 0, go smaller increments. For example, you might go 35, 25, 15, 5, then 0. So Inventor is a fickle program sometimes, and you gotta be nice to it. So once you got it at 0 and it's at maximum displaced, you can just go to the right side, and you can go up to Inspect, Measure, and you're going to go from the top of the box to that top of the follower plane, and my dimension is 2.375. I'm going to go to the Start menu, I'm going to type in Snipping Tool, and once that loads, I'm going to highlight this with a bounding box. This will take a screenshot. I can then copy this, and I can bring that right into my Google Sheet. And there is your tutorial for creating your assembly.